Hello, welcome back. Something different here. Now, a while ago, I was in Norfolk, out walking with the dogs, and I came across this old iconic BT phone box, and this brought back tons of nostalgia for me. So I thought I'd just make a video on this, and let's talk about these old phone boxes. Now, you're going to have to be a certain age to get this, but I know that most of my viewers are of a certain age like myself. But if you grew up in the 1960s and the 1970s, not everybody had a telephone at home. They were expensive. It wasn't a simple case of phoning up and getting a phone line connected. They physically had to come out in the street and connect your house via a wire. And then when you got a phone, well, you had to pay for it. You had to rent it monthly. And the cost of a phone call was really expensive. You were charged by the minute. And really, right up to the mid-70s, if you had a phone at home, that was considered quite posh. So the red public phone box, they were a very familiar sight all around the UK. For me, it was the fully enclosed red K6 phone box that I remember the most. This was launched way back in 1936, and later boxes had an open design, but it just didn't have the same feeling. Let me explain. Now, things have really changed. Nowadays, when the kids get their 6-week long summer holidays, they tend to bum about the house, they spend time in bed, they watch multiple channels on the TV, and they text and message their mates on their mobile phones. But it wasn't like that in the 1970s. Your mum would soon get very fed up with you under her feet, and you'd get kicked out on the streets. So you'd jump on your trusty push bike, be it a Raleigh chopper, racing bike, Tomahawk, grifter, things like that. You remember those? And you'd go and look for your mates, and you would just simply hang around the streets. Now, being the UK and the summertime back in those days, we didn't get a lot of summer, and it would invariably rain and it would be cold. And when you did get a downpour of rain, you would head for the nearest phone box. That's where you would take shelter, and you could probably get 2 or 3 of your mates in there, all crammed in together to ride out the storm. Once again, you got rather bored, and very quickly someone discovered that if you picked up a lolly stick that were always lying about the pavements in those days, if you snapped it in half and cut a small groove on it, you was able to push down the tumblers in the coin slots in the phone mechanism. So then you was able to make a free call, and we used to have loads of fun making prank phone calls just to random numbers. We then discovered that the BT telephone exchange used something called pulse dialing, and if you tapped out the individual numbers on the telephone handset rest, you could make any phone call that you liked. Another thing we discovered was if you dialed in 1741 and hung the receiver up, after about 20 seconds the phone would ring. This was an engineer's return call system, and we had great fun with a telephone box outside a shop, dialing this number, then running away and waiting to see if anyone would answer the phone. The memories of a misspent youth. After that, I kind of avoided phone boxes for many years. We had a phone at home in those days. The next time I used it was to chat to girls, because it was always very difficult to try and have a personal conversation with a girl at home. Parents used to earwig and listen in on the conversations, and this is where phone boxes were really useful. Girls used to love to chat on the phone. They found it somehow kind of romantic. I remember there was a sweet girl in my maths class that I really fancied. She had overbearing parents, and the only way that we could talk was to use public phone boxes. She had already been to a local box, given me the number. We arranged a time. I walked up to my local BT box with a pocket full of rattling 10p pieces, and then we stood in the freezing cold in a rather smelly phone box and chatted to our little heart's content. But by this stage there was a problem with phone boxes. They weren't so treasured as they once were. Everyone had a phone at home, and youths coming back from the pubs used to use them as a public toilet, so they quite often had a rather nasty urine smell. Things got worse as we moved into the 1990s. BT stopped painting the red phone boxes and they started to fall into disrepair. They were soon vandalised, and it was more often than not that if you tried to use a phone box you would find that it was broken. Towards the end of the 90s, the popular red phone boxes were being decommissioned. They did introduce the KX100 in 1996. This was an open planned telephone kiosk more than a box, but really the writing was on the wall for public phone boxes. The old red boxes were collected up. I believe some were offered for sale for as little as £1. The problem was you had to collect it yourself, and as they were made out of cast iron with a concrete base, you would have needed a truck to remove one, but most were just scrapped for their metal value. And I feel it's really sad that many ended up getting scrapped, but a few have been saved. A few entrepreneurs turned them into small little businesses. Recently, also I've noticed that some have been turned into defibrillator stations, so the old red boxes are actually saving lives. And finally, in some towns, a few have been converted into little libraries where people can come along and borrow a book. But alas, it's with a heavy sense of sadness I look back on phone boxes. It's something that's disappeared from my youth and I'm never going to see it again. What about you guys watching this video? Have you got any recollections? Have you got any stories about phone boxes? Leave them in the comments. I'd love to read them. I'm going to wrap this one up now with the very short video clip that I took in Norfolk when I discovered this old K6 box. And you can understand how I got so excited and run across the road to have a look at it. The missus thought I was completely mad. But so I'm going to say goodbye now. So thank you for watching the video. Please, please, please stay safe. And here it comes. Just spotted this old phone box. I've not seen one of these for years. I wonder if it's still working. I doubt it. I bet it's derelict. Oh God, is it? Look at that. Wow. The state of it. There's the electrical connections down there. There you go. Yeah. Doesn't smell bad though. All the window panes are still not broken, which is unusual around our way. This would have been completely wrecked. But yeah, there's the old mountains. And yeah, there you go, an old telephone box. Shame it's not working. Right outside a BT, I don't know what you'd call that, connection housing or whatever. There you go, yeah. An old phone box, unfortunately not working.